The tiny visitors. The sun was falling behind the tall redwoods of northern Alaska, turning the forest gold and crimson. The air smelled of pine and wet soil. Birds were silent now. The only sound came from the rhythmic chop of an axe echoing through the valley. Eli Bear Carson was a big man, the kind of man people used to call a mountain. He stood 6'6" with arms thick as tree trunks and a beard like a grizzly. He had spent most of his life cutting trees, hauling logs, and fixing what broke in the woods. Tonight, he was finishing the last of the day's work, ready to head home before dark. He wiped sweat from his forehead, leaned his axe against a stump, and reached for his canteen. Then, something strange happened. A soft humming filled the air. Not like a bee, not like a chainsaw. It was higher, thinner, and moving fast. Eli frowned and turned toward the sound. The hairs on his neck stood up. From between two trees came a flicker of blue light, like lightning trapped in a jar. Then, in a flash, the light stretched and collapsed into a small shape that dropped to the ground with a soft thud. Another followed, smaller still. Both shapes glowed faintly before dimming. Eli froze. The forest was quiet again except for his own heartbeat. Slowly, he stepped closer. Lying on the moss were two tiny figures, no taller than a man's hand. They wore small silver suits that shimmered even in the fading light. Their skin was pale, almost transparent, and their eyes, large and black, blinked slowly as they tried to stand. "What in God's name?" Eli whispered. The taller of the two, if you could call something 6 inches tall, taller, raised a small hand and made a soft chirping sound. The other one swayed weakly and held on to its sibling. Eli knelt down. His shadow covered them completely. He could see their faces now, smooth, almost childlike, but not human. Their mouths were small, their noses flat. They looked fragile, like something that would break if he breathed too hard. "Easy now," he said softly, unsure if they could understand. "You folks, lost or something?" To his surprise, the smaller one responded. Its voice was faint, but clear, a strange mix of tones, translated somehow into words he could understand. "Please, help us." Eli blinked. He looked around the forest, half expecting this to be some prank, maybe a drone trick or a projection. But the little beings were real and scared. "What happened to you?" he asked. The taller twin looked up. "Our ship crashed. We need energy before the hunters find us." "Hunters?" Eli frowned. "You mean animals?" The alien shook its head. "Not animals, machines. They follow heat. They will come." The forest seemed to grow colder with those words. Eli felt a knot in his stomach. He stood scanning the tree line. The woods were still, but something in the air felt wrong, like the silence before a storm. "All right," he said finally. "You need help, you got it. Let's get you somewhere safe." He took off his glove and held out his massive hand. The twins hesitated, then climbed onto his palm. They were light, lighter than birds, but their tiny suits buzzed faintly, as if trying to recharge. Eli gently placed them inside his coat pocket, where it was warm. Then he grabbed his axe and started toward his cabin, a half-mile through the trees. The sun dipped lower. Shadows stretched long and thin. Behind him, somewhere far off, came a faint metallic sound, like metal scraping stone. Eli quickened his pace. He reached the cabin just as darkness settled. The wooden structure stood strong, built by his own hands. He pushed open the door and stepped inside. The old lantern flickered to life, casting yellow light across the walls. He set the twins gently on the table. They looked even smaller now in the wide, empty room. "Okay," he said. "Let's figure this out. What kind of energy do you need?" The taller one pointed at a small device on its chest. "We need heat, power, anything strong." Eli thought for a moment. Then he smiled slightly. "Well, I've got a generator out back. Runs on diesel. That count?" The twins exchanged a quick, excited sound. "Yes, it will help." He nodded, stepped outside, and fired up the old generator. It coughed and roared to life, flooding the air with warmth and vibration. Inside, the twins' suits glowed brighter. For the first time, Eli saw them smile. Tiny, grateful smiles. But then, the noise. A deep, mechanical hum, distant but growing louder. Eli froze. The sound came from beyond the trees, rhythmic, heavy, too steady to be an animal. He turned off the generator and listened. The forest seemed to pulse with the echo of approaching engines. The smaller twin clutched its sibling's arm. "They found us." Eli grabbed his rifle from above the door. "Who's they, exactly?" The taller one looked at him, eyes wide and dark. "Hunters. They will not stop until we are gone. And now they know where we are." Outside, lights appeared between the trees, red and white, sweeping through the darkness like searching eyes. Eli's grip tightened on his rifle. He glanced down at the twins. "Don't worry," he said, his voice calm but fierce. "No one's taking you while I'm standing." The little aliens looked up at him, their fear turning to hope. For the first time in his life, Eli Carson, a man who only knew trees and silence, realized he was about to fight for something much bigger than himself. The hunters' arrival, rain poured harder, turning the ground to mud as Tom stepped out of his cabin. The silver glow from the clearing pulsed through the trees like lightning trapped in metal. He could feel the hum in the air, deep and heavy, like the earth itself was holding its breath. The voice came again, louder this time. "Human, you are in possession of fugitives. Release them immediately." Tom squinted toward the light. The shape that landed wasn't a ship like he imagined. It was more like a floating fortress. Long, sharp wings folded inward as it hovered above the clearing. From its side, beams of blue light cut through the mist. Then they appeared. 3 tall figures stepped out, walking through the rain without making a sound. Their armor shimmered like glass, and each held a weapon that hummed with energy. Their faces were hidden behind masks, glowing faintly from within. Tom's grip tightened on his axe. His cabin was only 20 yards away. Inside were 2 small lives depending on him. He took a slow breath and stepped forward. "You're trespassing," he called out. His voice was calm, steady. "This is private land." The leading figure turned its glowing face toward him. "Your claim is irrelevant. The fugitives are ours. Return them and you will not be harmed." Tom's jaw flexed. "They're hurt. You're not taking them anywhere until they're safe." There was silence for a moment. Then a cold, distorted laugh. "Your species is primitive. You do not understand what you are protecting." "Maybe not," Tom said, lifting the axe. "But I understand right and wrong." Without warning, the figure raised its weapon. A blue beam shot past Tom, striking the ground beside him. The earth exploded, sending mud and smoke into the air. Tom dove behind a fallen log, heart pounding. The air buzzed with electricity as another shot blasted nearby. He rolled to his feet and sprinted toward the tree line. Inside the cabin, the 2 tiny aliens clutched each other, trembling. Through the window, they could see flashes of light. "He fights for us," the smaller one whispered. "Why would he do that?" "Humans are strange," the other replied softly. "Maybe he does not fear death." Outside, Tom ducked behind a tree and peered out. The alien soldiers were moving in a line, their armor reflecting every drop of rain. Their steps were too smooth, too confident. They weren't expecting resistance. Tom smiled faintly. "Let's fix that." He grabbed a small can of fuel from his belt, something he used to keep his chainsaw running. He tore off a strip from his shirt, stuffed it in the spout, and lit it with his lighter. The makeshift firebomb hissed in the rain. He waited until the nearest soldier passed, then threw it. The explosion wasn't huge, but it was loud. Fire flashed in the darkness, and the alien stumbled, its armor sparking. Tom didn't wait. He charged out, swinging his axe with a roar. The blade hit the creature's shoulder, and sparks flew as metal cracked. The alien reeled back, its weapon falling to the mud. Tom kicked it down and grabbed the gun, though it felt strange in his hands, like it was alive. The second alien raised its weapon, firing a pulse that grazed Tom's leg. He fell behind a stump, gritting his teeth as pain burned through him. The weapon he'd taken glowed brighter, reacting to his touch. Then, somehow, it fired, a wild, blinding beam that tore through the air and hit the second attacker square in the chest. Silence followed. The leader turned, its mask glowing brighter. Impressive. "For an animal!" Tom struggled to his feet, limping but unbroken. "Animal, huh? You should see me before coffee." The alien tilted its head, almost studying him. "You do not realize what you are interfering with. Those creatures are not innocent. They are criminals. They stole from us." "Then maybe you shouldn't shoot at kids," Tom snapped. The alien paused, lowering its weapon slightly. "You believe they are children?" Before Tom could answer, the cabin door burst open behind him. The two tiny aliens stood in the doorway, trembling, but the smaller one stepped forward, holding a small crystal device glowing bright green. Its voice rang clear now, no longer weak or broken. "You call us criminals," it said. "But we only took what you stole first, our freedom." The leader froze. For the first time, it didn't sound confident. "That technology is forbidden. Return it, or your planet will be sanctioned." Tom turned toward the aliens, his voice firm but low. "You two, you need to run." The smaller one shook its head. "No, we stay. You helped us. Now we help you." The crystal pulsed in its hand, and a wave of green light spread through the clearing. The air rippled. The floating ship above began to flicker, its engines whining. The alien soldiers staggered, their armor failing. Tom shielded his eyes from the light. When it faded, the ship was gone, just smoke and rain left behind. The leader remained, half its mask shattered, staring at Tom in disbelief. "This isn't over," it hissed, before vanishing into the mist. Tom lowered his axe slowly, breathing hard. His leg hurt, his clothes were soaked, and his mind spun with questions. He turned toward the tiny aliens who were now standing close together, exhausted but alive. "What the hell did you just do?" he asked softly. The smaller one looked up, its eyes glowing faintly. "We broke their signal. They can't call reinforcements. For now." Tom sighed and gave a tired smile. "Guess that means we've got a little time." He helped them back inside, closing the cabin door as thunder rolled once more through the forest. Outside, in the shadows of the trees, something else moved, silent and unseen. A faint red light blinked twice, then disappeared. The hunters were not finished. The hunters were not finished. Secrets of the tiny strangers. Rain still whispered against the roof as dawn began to break. The storm had passed, but the world outside looked bruised, gray clouds hanging low, trees steaming with mist. Inside the small cabin, Tom sat at the table. Cleaning his axe and wrapping his wounded leg, the two tiny aliens sat across from him, both wrapped in his flannel jacket, their glowing eyes watching every movement he made. They looked scared but calmer now. Finally, Tom spoke. "All right," he said, his voice quiet but steady. "I think it's time you tell me what's going on. Who are you and why are they hunting you?" The smaller alien looked at the other before answering. "My name is Leary," it said softly. "This is my brother Cale. We are not soldiers. We are—" It paused, searching for the right word. "Builders," Tom frowned. "Builders? Like engineers?" "Yes," Leary nodded. "We design machines for the Alliance, a great union of worlds. But the ones who attacked us, they're from the Dominion. They control the Alliance now. They make us build weapons, not tools." Cale spoke next, his voice weak but angry. "We escaped. We took something they wanted, something we made. A power source. A crystal that can create energy without end." Tom blinked. "Energy without end? Like infinite power?" Leary nodded again. "Yes, but in wrong hands it becomes a weapon that can destroy whole planets. The Dominion wanted to use it. We refused. So they called us thieves." Tom leaned back, his brow furrowed. "And you two came here, to Earth, to hide?" "Not just to hide," Cale said. "We followed an old signal. We believed your world was empty of war. A place no one would look." Tom gave a half smile. "You picked the right forest at least?" Leary tilted her head. "Why did you help us, Tom Riker? We are not your kind." Tom looked at the fire for a long moment before answering. "Doesn't matter what you look like," he said finally. "You were scared, hurt. Someone had to step in." Leary stared at him as if trying to understand that kind of logic. "You risked your life for strangers." "In our worlds, no one does that anymore." Tom chuckled softly. "Then your worlds need more lumberjacks." For the first time, Cale smiled. The cabin felt almost peaceful again. But the peace didn't last. A faint beep echoed from somewhere near the window. Leary's head snapped toward the sound. "Tracking signal," she whispered. Tom stood quickly, scanning the room. "You mean they can find us again?" "Yes," Cale said, panic returning to his voice. "The leader left a beacon. It follows our energy signature." Tom grabbed his coat. "Then we move, now!" He packed food, water, and a flashlight into his old hiking pack. The aliens climbed inside carefully, small enough to fit together in the side pocket. Tom tightened the straps and stepped out into the misty morning. The forest was eerily quiet. Every step he took squelched in the wet earth. The air smelled of smoke, the kind left behind by burning metal. They hiked for hours, deeper into the woods where no road reached. As they moved, the aliens whispered between themselves in their strange language. Tom couldn't understand the words, but he could feel their worry growing. By midday, they reached a ridge overlooking a valley filled with fog. Tom set down the pack and let them climb out to breathe. "This far enough?" he asked. Leary looked at her device, a small round scanner that flickered weakly. "For now," she said. "But they won't stop. Dominion hunters always return." Tom squatted beside her. "You said that crystal thing can make energy forever. Can it do anything else?" She hesitated. "Yes, it can heal. It can build. It can even protect a world if someone knows how to use it." Tom raised a brow. "Sounds like something Earth could use." Kyle looked up at him seriously. "If humans used it, the Dominion would come for you too," Tom sighed. "Guess they already are." Suddenly, the scanner in Leary's hand flashed red. "They're here," she whispered. "More of them." Tom turned, scanning the tree line. He couldn't see anything, but he felt it. The same low hum in the air, that deep vibration before something bad happens. "Stay low," he said, grabbing his axe again. "We'll make a stand." Leary reached out, stopping him. "You cannot fight them alone, Tom. You'll die." "Maybe," he said. "But I won't let them take you." Cale climbed onto his shoulder, gripping his collar. "Then we fight together." The first blast came from above, a blue streak cutting through the fog and hitting a tree, turning it into glowing dust. The shockwave knocked Tom off balance, but he stayed up, shielding the aliens with his arm. Figures dropped from the mist. 4 this time, not 3. Sleek armor, silent steps. They moved in perfect rhythm, weapons raised. Tom ducked behind a boulder, heart hammering. "They don't quit, do they?" Leary crawled onto the rock, holding the crystal high. "Then we won't either." The crystal glowed brighter, pulsing in rhythm with her heartbeat. The ground trembled. Around them, the trees began to bend, their roots twisting upward like living shields. Tom stared, wide-eyed. "You're doing that?" "Yes," she gasped. "But I cannot hold it long." The hunters opened fire. Blue beams hit the roots, burning holes through bark and smoke. Tom charged out, swinging his axe, deflecting one shot with sheer luck. He struck the nearest alien's leg, metal cracked again, sparks flying. Cale leapt from his shoulder, pressing a small disc onto the alien's chest. "Now!" he shouted. Tom swung once more, and the disc exploded in a flash of green light, throwing the hunter backward. The others hesitated, surprised by resistance. Tom stood tall in the smoke, axe in hand, reins steaming off his shoulders. "Tell your bosses," he shouted. "If they want these two, they'll have to go through me." The alien leader's voice came through the mist, cold and distant. "Then so be it, human." The fog thickened. More lights appeared above, dozens this time. Tom's jaw clenched. "Guess we're not done yet." Leary's voice trembled but firmed with resolve. "Then we end it here." The crystal flared, brighter than lightning. The forest lit up like day, and everything vanished into white. Marked through the frozen ridge dawn came gray and cold. Eli packed his old hiking bag, some food, water, matches, and a spare fuel can. The rifle hung across his shoulder. His axe was strapped to his belt. The twins waited by the window, wrapped in a tiny piece of flannel Eli had torn from an old shirt. They looked even smaller in the morning light, but their eyes were bright and alert. Their suits glowed softly, drawing power from the sun. "North," the taller twin said. "Our ship is there, under ice and stone. The enforcers will search soon." "We must go fast," Eli nodded. "Then let's not waste time." He placed them gently inside a small metal lunchbox lined with cloth. It kept them warm and safe. When he closed the lid halfway, one of them peeked out, curious. "You carry us in." "Food container?" it asked. Eli chuckled. "Call it a portable bunker." The little alien tilted its head but smiled. "Portable bunker, good." They set off through the forest. The morning mist hugged the ground and frost sparkled on the leaves. Eli walked quietly, listening for any strange sounds. Birds were still silent. Not a good sign. As they climbed the ridge, the trees grew thinner, the ground steeper. Patches of snow crunched under Eli's boots. The cold air bit through his jacket, but he didn't complain. Inside the lunchbox, the twins whispered to each other, their voices full of worry. Eli could hear bits of it. Words like signal, scan, and detection. After an hour, they reached a clearing that overlooked a valley filled with fog. In the center stood something half buried in ice, a dark, round shape about the size of a truck. It shimmered faintly, reflecting light like metal and glass. "There," the taller twin said, pointing. "Our ship." Eli knelt behind a rock, scanning the area. "Doesn't look guarded." "It will be," said the smaller one. "They track our ship's beacon." "It hides for now, but soon they will find it." Eli's instincts agreed. The air felt heavy again. The same feeling he'd had before the hunters arrived. "Stay low," he whispered. He started down the slope, careful not to make noise. The snow muffled his steps, but every crunch sounded too loud in the still air. When they were halfway down, a sound broke through the fog, a deep metallic rumble. The ground trembled under his boots. Eli froze. From the mist emerged a shape much larger than the hunters, tall as a cabin, moving on 4 heavy legs. Its body was armored, its front glowing with red light. It carried a long, sharp weapon that looked part cannon, part blade. "Enforcer," whispered one of the twins. The machine stopped beside the crashed ship, scanning the area with beams of red light. Its voice was deep and cold like grinding steel. "Target life forms detected. Terminate non-compliant units." Eli clenched his jaw. "Guess that's us." The Enforcer turned its head toward the ridge. Its sensors locked on him instantly. "Human life form detected. Possible contamination. Neutralize." Eli ducked behind a boulder as a blast of red energy tore through the snow, melting it into steam. The twins shouted from the lunchbox, "Eli, run!" "You cannot fight that." But Eli wasn't the running type. He peeked out, aimed his rifle, and fired. The bullet hit the Enforcer's shoulder with a clang, leaving only a small dent. "Figures," he muttered. Big armor, weak brain. He fired again, not to kill, but to distract. Then he sprinted down the hill toward the ship. Energy blasts exploded around him, throwing snow and dirt into the air. He reached the ship and dropped behind its side. The twins climbed out of the box, their small hands glowing as they pressed them against the hull. "We can open it," one said. "But we need time." "Do it," Eli said. "I'll keep that tin can busy." The Enforcer stomped closer, each step shaking the ground. It raised its cannon arm, charging another shot. Eli grabbed a handful of snow and shoved it into the rifle barrel. "Come on, you metal fool," he said through gritted teeth. He popped up, aimed high, and fired at the ridge above the Enforcer. The bullet hit a loose section of rock. A shower of stones and snow fell down, smashing into the machine's back. It staggered, losing balance for a second. That was all Eli needed. He ran forward and swung his axe with both hands, hitting a cable near its leg joint. Sparks flew as the machine stumbled again, its red light flickering. Behind him, the ship's door began to open. Blue light spilled out. The twins shouted, "Eli!" "Inside, now!" He turned and ran for the ramp. The Enforcer raised its arm again, targeting him. A red beam sliced through the air. Eli dove through the ship's entrance as the beam hit the door. The metal slammed shut, cutting off the light and sound. For a moment, everything went silent except for Eli's heavy breathing. The twins hovered beside a glowing control panel, touching symbols that pulsed like veins of light. The ship hummed to life, engines rumbling deep below. "You okay?" Eli asked. The taller one nodded. "Yes, ship is alive." "We can move again," but only a little. It was damaged badly. Eli sat back, catching his breath. You mean we can't fly out? Not yet, said the smaller twin. We must repair the core. Then we can escape before more enforcers come. Eli leaned his head against the wall. All right, tell me what you need. Tools, heat, whatever. We'll fix it. The twins looked at each other, surprised. You would help? Eli gave a small grin. You asked for help, didn't you? Well, you found the right man. Outside, the enforcer rose again, shaking off the rubble. Its red eye glowed brighter than before. Inside the ship, alarms started flashing. They are calling for reinforcements, the taller twin said. Many more will come. Eli stood, gripping his axe once more. Then let's get this bird flying before the sky falls on us. Bird flying before the sky falls on us. The sky full of eyes. The alien ship trembled as it climbed higher through the atmosphere. Clouds turned into white mist below, then vanished completely. The stars came into view, cold and sharp against the endless black. Eli pressed his hand against the wall, feeling the ship shake. He wasn't used to flying, especially not in something built for creatures smaller than his arm. But he didn't complain. After all, the twins had gotten them this far alive. The taller twin floated by the controls, its tiny hands glowing as it moved across the symbols. We are leaving your world's sky, it said softly. We are almost safe, the smaller one looked less certain. Its dark eyes stared at the scanner screen that pulsed red. No, we are not alone. Eli stepped forward. What do you mean? The smaller twin pointed to the display. Hundreds of red dots surrounded a blue one, their ship. Enforcer fleet. They are waiting above. Eli looked through the small window. His breath caught. Out there, just beyond the thin curve of Earth, hung an enormous web of metal and light. Ships, hundreds of them, arranged in lines, each glowing with the same red light as the hunters and enforcers before. Some were the size of buildings, others like mountains. Together they formed a wall between Earth and the stars. Good Lord, Eli whispered. That's an army. The taller twin's voice trembled. They came for us. They do not allow our kind to break rules. We ran away. We disobeyed the Empire. Empire? Eli asked. The smaller twin nodded. The Dominion of Argath. They rule thousands of worlds. They see humans as primitive. Not worth notice. Until now, Eli frowned. Well, they notice me plenty down there. They will not stop, the taller one said. They must destroy us before others see your strength. Eli gave a dry laugh. My strength? I just hit things with an axe. The twins looked at each other. That is exactly why they fear you, one said softly. Before Eli could reply, the ship shook violently. Alarms blared. Through the window, he saw 3 red ships break formation and start moving toward them, leaving streaks of light behind. They are locking weapons, shouted the smaller twin. Eli braced himself against the wall. Can this thing fight back? The taller one hesitated. Weapons are damaged. But we can run! Then run like hell! The ship jerked forward. Stars stretched into streaks as they dove through open space, weaving between debris and clouds of glowing dust. Energy beams flashed past, one of them grazing the side of the ship and sending sparks flying. Shields at 40%, cried the smaller twin. Eli held onto a pipe, gritting his teeth. Tell me there's a plan. We must reach the dark side of your moon, said the taller one. We can hide there while we repair the warp core. The ship twisted sharply, heading toward the distant silver curve of the moon. The chasing ships followed, firing again and again. Eli looked out the window and saw something incredible. One of the alien ships exploding, hit by debris from its own blast. The twins had dodged perfectly. He couldn't help but grin. Nice flying, kids. But his smile faded when he saw the other 2 enemy ships closing in. They were faster, stronger. Their red lights burned brighter. And their weapons charged for another volley. Eli, the taller twin said quietly, if they hit the engines again, we will fall. Eli glanced around the cabin. His eyes landed on the small fusion core, the one he had patched with tape and wire. It glowed steady but faint. He thought for a moment. What happens if we give that thing a little extra power? The smaller twin blinked. Extra, that would overload it. It could explode. Yeah, Eli said, a small grin forming. That's what I'm thinking. The twins looked at him horrified. You cannot! The blast will destroy you! Maybe, Eli said, tightening his gloves. but it'll take them with me. He knelt beside the core, pulling off the panel. The twins tried to stop him, but he shook his head. I didn't climb a mountain, fight robots, and fix your ship just to die running. You said they fear humans? Then let's give them a reason. He grabbed the copper wire he'd used before and twisted it tighter, feeding more current into the core. Sparks jumped. The lights flickered. The hum deepened. The ship's sensors screamed warnings. Eli, stop! The taller twin cried. You cannot control it. Eli grinned. Wasn't planning to. Outside, the red ships closed in, locking onto their position. Energy cannons glowed, ready to fire. At that moment, the patched fusion heart pulsed bright blue, brighter than the sun. The ship shot forward faster than any of them had ever seen. The sudden burst of energy formed a shockwave that ripped through space. The pursuing ships were caught in it, their hulls cracking and twisting before they vanished in explosions of red light. The shockwave carried Eli's ship past them, spinning through debris. The lights dimmed. The sound of the engines faded into silence. When everything stopped, the ship drifted quietly in the darkness behind the moon. Eli slumped against the wall, coughing from the smoke. Well, he said weakly, did it work? The twins floated to the window, staring at the empty stars. Yes, the smaller one said softly. They are gone. The taller twin turned back to Eli. You risked everything. Eli shrugged. Guess that's what people do when they care about someone. The twins looked at him for a long time. Two tiny beings from a faraway world, seeing something they couldn't quite understand. Finally, the taller one said, Humans, you are dangerous. But not because of weapons, because of heart. Eli chuckled tiredly. Yeah, that sounds about right. He leaned back and closed his eyes. Now, how about we fix this thing before your empire sends round 2? The twins smiled faintly and floated to the controls. Outside, hidden behind the moon, the little patched-up ship drifted in the dark. One man and 2 tiny aliens alone against an empire that now knew the name of the planet they came from. And somewhere far away, in the vast cold of space, the Dominion of Argath had just changed its orders. Earth was no longer primitive. It was a threat. It was a threat. When humanity answered, the little ship floated silently in the shadow of the moon. Earth hung below, bright, blue, and calm, but above it the stars seemed darker than before. Inside the cabin, the air was still. Small sparks drifted from broken wires. The fusion core flickered weakly. The ship had survived, but barely. Eli leaned against the wall, breathing slowly. His beard was singed, and his shirt had scorch marks. He looked tired, but alive. The taller twin floated nearby, checking the control panel. Engines. Stable at 40%. Shields gone. Communication array. Damaged. The smaller one added, We cannot reach our fleet, and soon the Dominion will send more ships. Eli rubbed his forehead. Then maybe it's time we stop running. The twins turned to him, confused. Stop? Yeah, Eli said. You said they think Earth's no threat, right? The taller twin nodded. Yes, they believe your kind is primitive, unorganized. Eli's eyes narrowed. Good. Let's make sure they keep thinking that, right up until it's too late. He walked to the front window. From here, Earth looked small and peaceful. Billions of lives going on, not knowing that an alien empire was watching. He clenched his fist. Those people down there, he said quietly, they don't even know what's coming, but they'll fight. Trust me on that. The twins floated closer. Fight? With what? Your world is not ready for the Dominion. Eli smiled faintly. We don't need fancy ships or laser cannons. We've got brains, courage, and a lot of angry folks who don't like bullies. He pointed at the half-dead control console. You said your comm array's broken. Can you repair it enough to send a short signal? Maybe, said the smaller twin. But only to your planet. Not far. That's fine, Eli said. We just need to reach someone who listens. The twins worked fast. Sparks flew as they reconnected glowing wires and pressed glowing symbols. Finally, a weak hum filled the air. Signal ready, said the taller twin. But we do not know your human frequencies. Eli thought for a moment. Try channel 71.5. That's an old emergency band. The folks at NORAD might still monitor it. The twins sent the signal. A burst of static filled the cabin. For a moment, nothing. Then a voice crackled through, deep, human, surprised. "This is Command Station Delta. Identify yourself. Repeat. Identify." Eli grinned. "Well, I'll be damned." It worked. He leaned close to the mic. "This is Eli Carson. I'm up here in orbit with 2 small friends and a big problem." There was a long pause on the other end. Then the voice said, "You're in orbit? Sir, are you aware of what's happening above the atmosphere? Multiple unknown craft detected. Are you in one of them?" "Yeah," Eli said. "And those unknowns aren't friendly. You're going to want to wake up every general you got." More static. Then, "Understood." "Stay online, Mr. Carson. Do not engage." Eli smirked. "Not planning to. Already did enough of that?" The taller twin looked nervous. "Eli, if they find us, the Dominion will destroy your planet." Eli nodded slowly. "Then it's about time humanity learned what's out there." Below them, Earth's orbit began to fill with light. Dozens of human satellites shifting position, scanning, moving. The global networks had detected the Dominion fleet. Panic and wonder spread across the planet as the first clear images came through. Alien warships the size of mountains surrounding Earth's upper orbit. For the first time, humanity knew it was not alone, and the world reacted fast. From Colorado to Moscow, from Beijing to London, every major military command went on high alert. Space agencies, scientists, and soldiers worked together, trying to track the alien positions. The noise of panic turned into a chorus of planning. Inside the small ship, the twins watched the data flood across the screens. "So many transmissions," the smaller one said softly. "Your species moves like a storm." Eli grinned. "Yeah, we don't stay scared for long," the taller twin frowned. "But your weapons cannot reach them. They have shields. You cannot win." Eli looked at the broken core he had patched together with tape and wire. You'd be surprised what humans can do when someone tells them they can't. Down below, something began to change. The Dominion fleet adjusted its formation, preparing for attack. But before they could strike, hundreds of small human satellites turned toward them. Old tools. Old machines. Nothing built for war, and yet each one suddenly flared to life. The Dominion's scanners detected power surges from unexpected places. Communication satellites, mining drones, even retired research probes, all broadcasting one signal: lock and fire. The twins stared at the readings. "What are they doing?" Eli smiled. "Improvising!" In that instant, dozens of tiny explosions burst across space. The Dominion ship's shields shimmered as pieces of debris, repurposed satellites, and reprogrammed boosters slammed into them at hypersonic speeds. It wasn't enough to destroy them, but it sent a message. The Empire's perfect formation broke. Their sensors filled with chaos. Eli chuckled. "Welcome to Earth's first fight," the taller twin whispered. "They should not be able to coordinate this fast." Eli nodded. "That's what makes us dangerous. We don't wait for orders. We act." More static filled the radio. Then a human voice again, calm, steady. "Mr. Carson, this is General Harper of Earth Defense Command. Whoever you are, you've just become the most important man in orbit. We need everything you know about these invaders." Eli smiled. "Copy that, General. But we're going to need a bigger toolbox." The smaller twin looked at him. "They believe you?" Eli shrugged. "Guess I sounded convincing." Outside, the moon's edge glowed red. The Dominion fleet was regrouping. The first real war between worlds was about to begin. Eli looked out the window, jaw tight. "They think we're weak," he said quietly. "They're about to find out what happens when humans get angry." Happens when humans get angry. The day the giants woke. The Dominion fleet moved like a dark storm above Earth. Red lights glowed along their hulls. Their command ship, a massive black spear longer than a mountain, drifted to the front. It turned slowly, pointing its weapons toward the blue planet below. From the shadows behind the moon, Eli's small ship floated, silent, almost dead. Inside, the air hummed with tension. The taller twin watched the enemy fleet. "They are preparing to fire," the smaller one added. "Once they strike, your world will burn." Eli stood by the window, jaw tight. Then we better make sure they don't get the chance. The radio buzzed. General Harper's voice came through, calm but hard. Mr. Carson, we're reading heavy energy buildup in their front line. We've scrambled everything that can fly. You've got 5 minutes before impact. Eli looked at the twins. Can this old ship still move? Barely, the taller twin said. But if we push the core again, it will explode. Eli smirked. Maybe that's exactly what we need. The twins stared at him. You cannot mean, he nodded. You said their shields block every kind of energy weapon. But what about a blast inside their line? Something close enough to overload their systems? The smaller twin hesitated. It might work if we detonate the core within their command cluster, but you would not survive. Eli gave a slow smile. Someone's got to make sure the message gets delivered. The taller twin floated closer. Eli, no. You have done enough. Let us go instead. He shook his head. You're too small. You can't carry the core. Besides, I'm the one who patched it wrong in the first place. The ship creaked as he pulled open the maintenance panel and started reconnecting wires. Sparks jumped again, bright blue. On the radio, Harper's voice came back. Mr. Carson, we've got an idea down here. Can you transmit your ship's data feed? Our engineers think they can link your signal into the satellites for a chain reaction. Eli grinned. Now we're talking. The twins worked fast, linking the ship's systems to the human network. Within minutes, hundreds of satellites locked onto Eli's frequency. Each one would amplify the blast when the time came. Eli turned to the twins. When I tell you, you two get out, take the escape pod. Head for Earth. The smaller one looked at him sadly. We owe you our lives. We will not leave you. Eli knelt down, looking at them with tired eyes but a calm smile. Hey, you two showed me that people out there are watching, that someone beyond our sky believes in right and wrong. Now it's my turn to show them what humans do when someone threatens home. The taller twin's voice shook. You are one of us now, Eli Carson, he chuckled. Guess that makes you part of us too. Outside, the Dominion fleet began to glow, rows of red cannons charging for the final strike. General Harper's voice cut through the static again. Mr. Carson, whatever you're planning, now's the time. Eli flipped the last switch. The ship's lights flared blue. The core pulsed like a heartbeat. All right, he whispered. Let's wake the giants. The ship shot forward, breaking from behind the moon. Dominion scanners immediately locked onto it. Alarms echoed through the alien fleet. Unidentified vessel approaching, said the Dominion commander. Destroy it. Energy beams lashed out, but Eli's ship kept moving. It dove between the massive warships, weaving through fire like a spark in a storm. Harper, Eli said through the mic. You still with me? Loud and clear, then link the signal. I'm going right into the middle. The twins held onto the walls as the ship shook. One cried out, Eli, there is no turning back. I know, he said. Tell your people we're not as small as we look. The core's glow grew brighter. The scanners went wild. The Dominion ships tried to pull back, but it was too late. Now, General, Eli shouted. From Earth's orbit, hundreds of satellites responded. Each one burst with stored power, linking together in a brilliant chain of blue light, all feeding into Eli's ship. For a second, the darkness of space turned to daylight. The Dominion commander saw it too late. Impossible! Then everything went white. The explosion tore through the enemy formation like a wave of fire. The blast didn't just destroy ships. It disrupted their control networks, their shields, their weapons. One after another, the massive warships broke apart, scattering across orbit like falling stars. When the light faded, the sky above Earth was quiet again. From below, billions watched as streaks of red light burned out in silence. Humanity had survived. In the control room on Earth, General Harper stood still, staring at the fading signal from Eli's ship. Godspeed, son, he whispered. Moments later, radar picked up a tiny escape pod drifting down through the atmosphere. Inside it were two small aliens, silent, watching the blue world grow larger below. The smaller twin pressed a hand to the glass. He did it, the taller one nodded. He showed them what your kind can be. When they landed, soldiers surrounded the crash site. Cameras rolled. The twins stepped out, small, glowing, and carrying a single metal fragment marked with burnt letters, E. Carson. The footage spread across the planet. For the first time in history, humanity saw proof of other life, and proof that one of their own had stood between the world and destruction. People didn't call it first contact. They called it the day the giants woke. From that day forward, Earth was no longer a quiet world. It began to build, to unite, to look toward the stars not with fear, but with determination. Because one man, a lumberjack from the mountains, had taught both humans and aliens the same lesson. Being human isn't about size or strength. It's about standing tall when the world needs you to.